I'm not trying to act like the Houston Rockets are going to win the championship. D'Antoni's still their coach, and I think that's a huge question mark. But I think when you look at them in terms of their talent, Russell Westbrook with James Harden, despite the fact that both are ball hogs and there are adjustments that clearly need to be made, they get along with one another. They're brothers. Obviously, their talent is undebatable. And then on top of it all, they can't be guarded one-on-one. Neither one of them. And Russell Westbrook may not be able to have that adroit jump shot that we're looking for, because he shot 29% from three-point range over the last 2 seasons, 65% from the free throw line last year, career low. He needs to clean that up. But the flip side to it is he could get to the basket at will. He could finish at the basket better than most. And he certainly can kick it out to a sniper like James Harden, who can do irreparable harm to the opposition. And that, combined with P.J. Tucker, Eric Gordon, Clint Capella, makes them incredibly, incredibly potent. I would still make the L.A. teams favorites over them, but there is no doubt that I think that when you look at the Houston Rockets from a talent perspective, as great as CP3 is as a floor general, because of D'Antoni's system and the way that James Harden was utilized, that's not what you needed as much as you need overall talent. This is the deal that I think that Houston should have made under the circumstances. He's 4 years younger than Chris Paul and obviously has a lot more left physically than Chris Paul does. And I think this was the right move by the Houston Rockets.
Stephen A., let's set aside whether or not it was the right move for a moment, because I think that's a deeper question about asset management and increasing, as you said, the talent base on your squad. Okay. But the question of whether or not they're better, I hate to be the fly in the ointment here, the guy who's kind of not celebrating at the after party, but I don't know that they are better. In fact, as a basketball team, from a basketball analysis on the court, I got to think that James Harden and Chris Paul are a better basketball team. And I'm a little astounded, Stephen A., at the way you're waving your hand at some of the most important evidence in this entire thing. I'm perfectly willing to admit, and I listen to you and I listen to Jalen, they're better on paper, it's better talent, they're more relevant, they have more star power. That Russell Westbrook is a better individual player than Chris Paul at this stage in the game. He's bigger, faster, younger, all the things you laid out, Stephen A. But I also wonder, how the hell does this work with James Harden? How do you put these two together? And I think that's the right basketball analysis when you're asking, are they better? These are two of the highest usage rate players in the NBA. They're two of the highest isolation players in the NBA. And you're going to force one of them off the ball. God help us if it's Russell Westbrook. Because as you just pointed out, and this is what I'm saying, you're waving your hand at this, but this is key. 29% from three for Westbrook. One of the lowest, forget three-pointers for a moment, one of the lowest in jump shots, meaning catch and shoot jump shots in the NBA. So he can't be sitting over there while James pounds the rock into the wood and waits for a pass. And by the way, you think James is going to give away the keys to the kingdom to be the guy who's sitting there waiting for a spot-up shot? From a basketball perspective, I don't see how this works.
Well, let me respond to that before Ryan chimes in here. First of all, I think you're ignoring a couple of things. You're looking at their individual talent and their style of play. What you're not looking at is how they could potentially complement one another by taking the pressure off of the other. Remember that when Chris Paul elected to leave the Clippers, one of the biggest reasons he left was because in Clipperland, he had the ball in his hands for every single play. He wanted time off the ball to be that guy that could play the off-guard spot, that could leave point guard responsibility to somebody else.
Do these two guys, Stephen A., honestly remind you of two guys that want less pressure? That's my point. CP3 was ready because he was a floor general to give away. These two are not two that I would imagine can give away.
This is the point that's being missed.
Go ahead.
There's a difference between these two guys of what you can do and what you have to do. So we understand James Harden can go off for 50-point triple-doubles. Russell Westbrook's 3 straight years averaging a triple-double. That's what they had to do for their teams to have success. And now you're saying that they can't merge, they can't fit together. Here's the reality. Russell Westbrook is a guy who loves the pass, loves to make other guys better, loves to move the basketball. If I'm not mistaken, last year, Paul George had his best year as a professional. So for
That
a
is
guy
accurate.
who is deemed as a ball hog, he came in third in MVP voting, and that's a lot of Russell Westbrook. I understand, Will, he shot 29% from three. He needs to fix that. But guess what? When you're out of rhythm and you choose to defer, a la Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, things like that happen. And keep in mind, why did James Harden have to go off for 30-point consecutive games? Talk to me.
Hold on. This is what I think, and this is the point I want to get to with Will about that. Will, you didn't let me get to it.
Yeah, sorry.
You keep bringing up the players. The coach is there for a reason. When you talk to me about what James Harden won't do, damn it, that's the coach's job.
Thank you.
That's the issue. In other words, and why is that relevant, Will Kane? Because if you recall, after losing a Game 6, they had no business losing to Golden State without the services of Kevin Durant. A few weeks later, Mike D'Antoni wanted a contract extension. What happened? He ran into a roadblock. What was that roadblock? Although we all surmise that an agreement will eventually be reached, Tillman Fertitta's requirement was, let me give you this $5 million a year, and then after that, give you $1 million per each round that you went in the postseason.
Right.
Why did he put that? Why did he try to insert that stipulation in there? Because he wasn't satisfied with the coaching. Because in late game situations, we're looking for some modification from a Mike D'Antoni that says, okay, just pushing the ball up the floor, jacking up threes, not prioritizing defense and what have you, is not good enough. Because if you're going up against a Steve Kerr or if you're going up against a Doc Rivers, you're going to have to make adjustments. And so as a result of that, when we look at James Harden, and we look at Russell Westbrook, what I would say to you is my concern is not the players. My concern is the coaching.
Stephen A., when in history, I can think of one example, okay? One example of two high-usage players that are alphas who want to take over, came together and were better for it. Because what I'm asking you is, are you giving Mike D'Antoni an impossible task here of figuring out two guys that are not just similar, but extreme? I'm talking about extreme usage, extreme alphas. The only example I can come up with, Stephen A., is KD and Steph.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.